Hello, everyone, and welcome to CXpert Share. I'm Brandon Knight. I'm glad that you joined us for CXpert Share, which is the talk show for real experts talking about real solutions. And speaking of real experts, I'm going to let my guest for today's session introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his organization. So, Rami, it's up to you.
Thanks, Brendan. Rami Mansourati here. Thank you for having me on the show. One of my first podcasts that I actually participated in, so we're going to get into the groove for this. My company's called Quantitel. I was happy to hear you're from Vegas, actually. I started it out of a trip to Vegas in 2017. Got a little bit warm and fuzzy with the channel partners event that takes place annually in Vegas. Came back to Toronto and started to find a gap in kind of the telecom experience over here. I said, you know what, I could take care of clients a little better because I know what it's like to be let down as a client in the telecom space. So I partnered up with everybody. As of 2017, I've been working with clients and acquiring new telecom solutions, IT support solutions, cybersecurity. And then we've kind of gone in as an agency that helps clients select the best vendors for their projects. We look at cost management from one perspective. We look at the technology they use from another, how to integrate it across the different fields that it touches. And most recently, and the most effective pillar that we've been developing over the past few years has been the convergence between customer experience, the contact center or the sales team, or any customer facing team, and how that all interfaces with the IT department as well. So we kind of take care of everyone together and sort of push out the customer experience aspect or the benefits of what you get in the latest and greatest investment experience. So that's been the focus for the most part recently. So cost management and into from cost management to ROI, from siloed solutions to integrated solutions, and from siloed management of different departments into a unified platform on which they can all benefit and understand each other.
Well, let's get right into that, because today's topic is strategies for measuring customer experience. And while that sounds like a simple topic, I will tell you as a former operator, it's changed a lot, right? Because back in the day when I was running contact centers, it was all about adherence to schedule and you know the metrics were around, you know, average speed of answer and handle time and things like that. It evolved into, you know, one call resolution, single call resolution, those types of things. But now that there's a greater emphasis on the actual experience the customer has, there's other things that are being measured as well. And there's other strategies for how to figure out, you know, based on the type of business that you're running, what you should be measuring. So based on your experience, what's your take on what the audience should be measuring if they want to accurately track CX?
Well, I mean, there's a variety of things that you can now measure, which should have been, you know, the metric before, but we just didn't have the technology to do it.
Right.
So if I can measure someone's tone of voice in correlation to their customer experience outcome, that would be a benefit. That's now possible. So when you talked about metrics, so reports, you know, average answer time, or a dashboard that says how many people are waiting on hold, that's perfect for employee performance measuring. How quickly are you getting through the interaction? But it's not necessarily a testament to how are you getting through the interaction. So you might be hitting all of your training points. You might be in a position where you're the best person answering the calls, but you might be missing out on cues that, if you don't, as an agent, as an individual contributing agent that's gotten a certain amount of training, if you don't understand the bigger picture of why a client might be upset about a certain situation that you wouldn't have visibility into because they're calling to ask a question and you don't have the context of why they may be upset, then bringing those two worlds together might be tough for you, and you'll have an oversight. Whereas if we start to correlate negative through the use of technology, if we start to correlate things like the negative tonality in a person's voice to a string of vocabulary or certain questions, we start to find in different places throughout the day or throughout the month when we're receiving calls as a company, well, hold on a minute, 95% of the people asking this question are doing it in a negative tonality. What else do we know about in the business that could have them upset and calling in to ask this particular question? And that's when you can bring that to the executive team and say, hey guys, well, we have this negative tonality that's being expressed in the voice according to our AI layer that's listening to these Zoom calls. What can we do? Like, what does everyone know about why this question is being asked? And so that's where you could kind of compound the data and understand that 75% of your clients are happy. The other 25 are unhappy with, I don't know, let's say a warranty policy, for example, that's inducing all of these negative customer calls. And as far as the agent knows, well, I mean, that's just our policy. Why would anyone be upset with it?
Right, exactly.
Because that's part of your training to understand it that way. So now we're converging customer experience, the employee's understanding into different contexts that can be intercepted. And we're giving management the opportunity to reach out to those negative tones, or the executive team the opportunity to rewrite the warranty policy in a way that sounds better or is better for the client, but also an opportunity for management to go out and say, hey, we got a little bit of a sense that you weren't so happy about said situation. Maybe we could offer you something to, make up for it, or whatever the case may be, or put out a promotion to, reduce the churn on the potential percentage of customers that might be leaving you as a service provider, as a product provider, as a result of that experience.
Interesting.
Really a deeper understanding.
Yeah, so you're getting into more than just the traditional, because some of our audience out there, some of them may be using I don't want to call them older systems, but some of the original systems that just they could tell you the word that was said, right? Or you could listen for a word, but without the tone of voice, right? Without being able to hear that and know the context, you're not getting the full picture of what could really be happening. And to your point, you can aggregate that information and now identify, like you said, a whole different issue. It could be, something that our company goes through this time of year. It could be a product defect that's out there that's impacting more people. And once you have more information, more actionable information, that's the other thing, right? Because there's a lot of we know in the contact center space, there's a lot of reports, right? There's a lot of data. Not all of it is actionable, right? Things have come a long way. Thankfully, I came up along this path, but when I first went into contact centers leadership, believe it or not, the reports were not real time. They were the next day, right? I'd go into work on Tuesday, and it would tell me everything my agents did on Monday, which of course we know was all but useless, right? Because that you can't.
I still see clients that have occasionally, not as much anymore. I still see clients that are delayed out by a week. Oh, this is how we did last week, right? So and it's not a bad thing. It's just this is some legacy technology that's been in place that was state of the art at the point that allowed you that insight. It allowed you to, it allowed you to make correlations like, well, this person took this many calls in one day and was able to get a better performance than the person that took that much less calls. And maybe in some cases, the agent spoke too much or for too long and turned the customer off, or gave it more opportunities for things to come up and spiral down a negative path, which is where certain SLAs and training started to come up. Hey, we want to be on and off a call within 5 minutes or less, or depending on the business model, whatever the case may be. Was the most suitable. So that data was very useful because over time you could start to identify patterns. But now what I was referring to is kind of imagine a world where you can give the customer options, not just options. The topic is strategies for measuring customer experience, as you mentioned. So that spreads beyond AI and beyond reporting. People like options. I don't want to call in. I want to text you guys on your website. I want to email you. I want to text you, or chat with you on your website, text you on SMS. I want to do whatever it is that is the most comfortable way for me, you know, especially with the newer generations coming in and wanting to use social media. And the beauty is that even those interactions that you have in those different channels, they'll let you converse the same way you would on the voice. And the way certain things are written, they'll take those strings of words, identify them to an emotion, still put it as part of the customer profile, and put it into that CRM, likely, that you're capturing everything into, and still give you some of those insights while giving the customer options on their most comfortable way of reaching out. So
I want to get into your experience a little bit, because I think it may help a customer, because you mentioned we still do have a good amount of customers that are on legacy systems. We still do have, like you said, it's not a lot, but we do have customers that inherited systems, and they might not be getting information in real time. And some of them, you know, if that's what the company is doing, that's what they're used to, they might not know. Like, can you speak to what are the advantages of real-time reports? Like what for someone who is managing with reports that are coming the next day or a few days, or some of them even on weekly, who might not know, because that's what they know, right? They might not know that they're missing something. They might not know that they're at a disadvantage. What could you share with them to help them understand the importance of maybe moving to real-time reporting or more timely information?
So, I mean, there's various reasons why certain organizations get into that pattern. One of it is they're not used to adopting the next level of technology as it comes out, or let's wait and kind of see how this plays out, kind of thing. There's other organizations that, you know, there's a perception that there's cost constraints with upgrading the system to be able to have that functionality. So I think we're at a point, just to answer your question more directly, we're at a point where I believe most people are aware that there's a better way of doing this. There's a better way of getting real-time data in the form of a dashboard that, I mean, most people have that. I mean, I guess, like, you have an answer to call in 2 minutes, the number goes red, kind of thing. But having it actively look for information that can help you answer questions really in real time, or identify those patterns we were talking about with customer satisfaction a little bit earlier. Some of the tools that are out there sound expensive. I think that's a big constraint in a lot of cases, and they're not as expensive as you would think in most cases as well. But that's also why we're here, because we help kind of manage the cost around everything IT, and if there is a higher expense, we help manage and keep that down, or reorganize things to be healthier for what you want to adopt. But it also has an advantage that you would have if you did, hypothetically, it did cost more and you wanted to spend that money. The advantage of why you would look to do it would be you get a much bigger ROI with things like a different type of reporting, an actively listening AI type of reporting that would not come in the form of static reports or a dashboard or emailed reports for the next day, or even sentiment analysis and recommendations, but it would be a situation where you'd have an agent on the phone or writing an email, and based on the context of the conversation, you would have a database suggesting the right answers for the question, which reduces the time it takes for the agent to look for it, put them on hold, open tickets, etc. You're going to have reduced tickets, higher response times, a richer answer that would reflect the management team's decisions on how we want to present ourselves, and still have a live human being speaking to the client with those answers having in mind sort of customer satisfaction. So as I'm talking to you right now, imagine you're asking me this question, I'm kind of connecting the dots on things that I would normally answer to a client. And but in the case that we're referring to, I have a little prompt coming up as I'm talking and saying, hey, this is how you should answer Brandon's question. He'd really like that. Based on, by the way, there's a recommended promotion based on this customer's profile. Now we're getting a little bit more advanced. But there's definitely going to be a return on investment, a reduction of time spent on an active interaction, and a higher customer satisfaction by having better reporting and better insight into those discussions. Does that answer your question well, or?
Yes, and I agree with that. I want to get into something else you mentioned, because for some customers, cost could be a factor, right? Especially if they have legacy equipment that's already paid for. You mentioned that one of the services you offer is you help them figure that out, right? You do cost comparisons. So you're in the Great North up there, one of my Canadian friends, right? So
right,
for your customers, not that you, I mean, I know you don't only deal with Canadian customers, but for a customer who might be looking at this and maybe in that situation, they're thinking, I wish I could do better, but I probably can't afford it, or it's going to be too much, or I want it, I'd probably pay for it, but maybe the finance department isn't going to pay for it. What does an engagement with you figuring that out, what does that look like for them, high level?
High level, we start at, actually, it's a really good word, we start at the high level. Yeah. So ideally, we want to talk to finance, we want to talk to customer experience, we want to talk to IT. And the reason for that is, so let's look at the system that we're talking about here. For customer experience, you're using what's now referred to as CCaaS, Contact Center as a Service, yes. As we're looking to move it to the cloud. But then there's, even those relatively new terms to some have now become at least 10 years old. And now there's UCaaS, Unified Communications as a Service, Contact Center as a Service, and now they're converging.
Yes.
So the first question we talk about is, what's your overall business collaboration strategy? It's not just about customer experience. Right. It's about customer experience, employee experience. What do you guys use to chat internally? What are you administering? How many tools do you have for your contact center team? How many tools do you have for your phone system? And how many tools do each of those integrate to? I'm talking CRM, I'm talking workforce management, I'm talking other AI layers that you may have adopted separately. Wouldn't you want all that to come under one? Right. And funny enough, I was invited to a speaking session in Toronto by one of your other counterparts at Zoom, talking about this being the third wave of contact center experience, where we are converging the phone system with the conferencing tool, like the Zoom meeting, the Google Meet, the Microsoft Teams, the contact center experience, how they talk to each other, how they're administered on the same level, how they have the same AI layer, and how they bring everything together. So by the time I have the first conversation with finance, within about 20 minutes, I would say 80% of cases, if the project to converge all this together is on the same table, department-wide, customer experience, employee experience, and solution-wide, we end up being almost certain that there's a savings opportunity compared to what you're paying today. And that includes, well, obviously there's a subscription model. It's very secure. It's very, it's very thorough. It's very developed, and it's geo-redundant and has all the redundancy and security question marks that the IT guys are going to ask me and that they're going to ask the provider I'm bringing to the table. It's huge in terms of the ability to cover all of that, but it's also very customizable. So it kind of takes all the boxes. It's hard to believe until you get into it, because a lot of businesses haven't visited or needed to visit these things until AI became the craze in 2023. Right. But when they get into it, they don't realize that we've been doing these technologies in this industry since, I think I remember the first time being mentioned, 2018, sentiment analysis and speech analytics and all that. That was the infancy of it. And here we are now with everything we're able to do. So imagine I'm able to transfer a call that continues to be recorded under the same metrics to someone in the back office that came in through the call center, or vice versa, using the same platform. The two employees are chatting with each other, giving a background or asking an AI summary of what happened, forwarding it over so that they have a good thing at their fingertips. These things are now, because they're on the same platform, they cost you less. And because, and you only have to worry about one group of integrations to the other applications you use. So that would be my advice, is kind of give us the chance to have the conversation. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is our services are always free. We're an extension of your team. We're generally vendor agnostic. So we only get paid by whoever you choose to move forward with. We give you all the options. If you're a Teams shop, we show you how that's a good thing, even if you're considering Zoom, because they work together in many ways. So yeah, I mean, that was a long answer. I know we covered a lot there.
But I do think those are good points, right? Because being, having no cost, of course, makes it appealing. Being agnostic is a big deal, right? Because as a consumer, as an operator, I see all of these various, and I'm going to speak to my audience for a second, because some of them might be like me. When I was head of contact centers, I would go to the shows. I would go to the trade shows. I'd go to the conferences, and I'd see all the different products. I'd go to different booths, and then after spending an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours there, I'd walk out. I'd walk out more confused than when I went in. Just because so much of it looks the same, so much of it sounds the same, and everybody kind of like so. I'm not ashamed to say this now, and I think it's good for customers to know this. It's okay to get help. It's not only is it okay, it's probably necessary, actually, to have someone who is on your side. And speaking of on your side, you talked about how you start from the top down. There also may be customers who were thinking like erroneously, like I used to think, that I had to understand all of it first and then go present it to my leader, or go present it to finance, or I had to go talk the C-suite into opening up this opportunity, not realizing that there were people like yourself who, if I simply helped broker the meeting, they made me look good. You have the ability to go in with the data, conduct a meeting, and kind of be the advocate for what for what I want as a customer, as a contact center customer.
Absolutely, I would definitely echo that with the fact, I mean, it happens time and again, right? So we have there's one project in one place, but it's connected to everything else. So there's it's no secret there are different timelines, different priorities by department internally. If there's an opportunity to alleviate that stress on one particular party and bring the benefits of everything that everyone will be able to work from together, we don't only just say, hey guys, like, we think this is the best solution for you. I mean, we do represent Genesis, Nice and Contact, Five9, Talkdesk as well. We can talk to you about pros and cons. We've done these analyses time and again. So what's the difference between a Zoom contact center solution and those guys? Why would we go under a single roof, or why would it make more sense for you to actually adopt a Five9 solution, depending on your circumstance? But the objective is, we're not a partner with you for just one day to make a quick sale and leave. We're looking here to have a conversation about what's not working, what is working is a non-negotiable, cannot change. And then how can we move that around in a way that is well, there's no disruption to the business. When we're on the table here, a transition is done in parallel, both systems are working together, and we cut you over at a time that you're ready. So there's no downtime. All those stereotypical questions we get, downtimes, outages, we take care of all that. We get you the SLAs. We look at the proof behind, the proof in the pudding is the pudding's all out there. You guys can, eat all the pudding you want and watch us present once we understand your business. We want to understand your business because we want to make the right recommendations. Once we've done that, we're all on the same page and we've moved into the new state. We also stay on board and look at how things scale and what you want to activate. Like, we never take someone who's using static reports from a week ago, and say, hey, let's put you in something that's predictive and that will give you all the candy that I was talking about earlier. just move it to the cloud in its current state and start building upon it as you become comfortable. And that's the relationship we hope to have, as we grow it for you, with you, and adapt it to the need that you start to see.
Perfect. I love how you talked about that partnership going beyond the initial phase, right? Because there are, and this is not a knock against anyone, but I can tell you, having run contact centers, you spend mostly every day right at, the water's at head level, right? And you're just trying to get through. And a lot of times, even if I get to the point where I can make the right decision about a technology change, or a product improvement, just getting the contract signed doesn't do it for me. It's helpful to know that there's someone that will be there along the way through the implementation, the change management, right, and that kind of stuff. So I think that's a good point to make as well.
Yeah, and we do customize statements of work that go hand in hand. Like I said, those are free of service. They'll link back to the provider's quote. Upon signature of that provider's quote, we engage in the following ways we've pre-agreed. So there's a lot of help that you get, and that's not just for me. I mean, that's obviously, we make sure the provider is accountable to the things that they've promised, and we as much as possible, we showcase a proof of concept. And it costs a lot of money to do a proof of concept in a contact center. So we demonstrate it, we document it, and we reproduce it in your tenant. And we make sure that we don't take the step forward until everybody's on the same page, everybody's good, of course. So there's a lot that goes into that effort, and a lot of conscious thought into, like I said earlier, the IT and finance side, but also the customer experience and ROI side of the entire engagement.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, we're gonna wrap this up, but as always, I like to give my experts, because I'm all about practical. I like and I love how you talked about some actual practical things, so I'm going to give you an opportunity, and it doesn't matter. It could be something we talked about already or something completely off. But one nugget, one thing you kind of wish a contact center leader, business owner knew or was aware of. Any parting knowledge you want to share?
That's a really good question, because it could be answered in so many different ways.
Yeah.
I guess I'll leave it with something a little special to what we do at Quantitel. I'm in the business of convincing people of things I've seen work before. So I do see that a lot of management personnel across many industries in contact center are skeptical, because they're overworked with the amount of data crunching they have to do. I promise you, there are easier ways to do it. I've seen it happen. Give us the chance to talk through it, and also to provide you. That's the other thing that's available that a lot of people don't know is available. We can put you in touch with similar business leaders that are already using the solutions we've recommended, that could provide references and line of sight into the pros and cons of every solution you could consider. So we actually have line of sight into how these clients are supported, and what we would recommend on a provider that maybe doesn't support as well in the after sale, that there's certain packages or partners we would bring to the table that would alleviate that issue altogether if the technology makes the most sense for you. So we look at really architecting not just the need, not just the list of issues you want to fix today, but the list of issues you might face tomorrow, and how to make sure they don't become a problem for you. And that's where, my reward is I'm compensated up until the end of your agreement. So if you don't renew, I lose you. I got to make sure you're happy. So the accountability is on me to hold true to my word there. And I really like to kind of experience that, the different environments, the different challenges that are brought to the table by different clients. So try me, and hopefully I could prove it for your environment as well.
I love that, because that means we're in it together, right? As a customer, we're in together partnership. I really appreciate you joining us. Rami, thank you so much. I know you said you were kind of new to the podcast game, but I think you're kind of a natural, man. You might have a career in this if you want to do it.
Well, you know what? I might consider it. So thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. Hopefully this was helpful for anybody listening, and I look forward to the next time we chat.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. Guys, thank you for joining us for this session of CXpert Share. We'll see you next.